Now, one quick thing I want to do before we move into the actual practicing is I want to show you a quick demonstration of our edge and how it's designed. Because straight edges are important for certain things. You need a straight edge for peeling. You want a nice clean edge for peeling through fruit and vegetables. Also for chopping, you're going to need a nice clean straight edge. Straight edges make clean cuts, but they also need constant sharpening. So again, high maintenance, very effective if you keep them sharp. Serrated edges are the ones with the teeth that rip and tear kind of like a saw. These rip and tear through food. So if you ever take a cooked chicken breast and try to cut it with a steak knife, it just pulls it apart, right? You guys have probably tried that at one point in time. Or if you're trying to shred chicken, that's a great way to do it, isn't it? With a serrated edge knife, because that's what it's going to do. Well, once the teeth start hitting plates and cutting boards and start rounding off, then they just kind of glide over your food, and you can't regrow those points once they round off. So a serrated edge will stay sharp for 1 to 3 years, and then it cannot be resharpened. Our edge has teeth, so it looks kind of like a serration. But ours, instead of just being that loop and point structure, ours are built more like triangles or pyramids. Inside each of these triangles, there are 3 razor sharp edges. So inside the teeth, so inside each one of these angles, there's a blade cutting forward, a blade cutting backward, and a blade cutting down from the top. You can squeeze through. So no matter which way I'm going, there's a blade slicing, not just the teeth ripping. As the teeth on this wear down and they kind of round off over time, the blades are still there to cut. So it's not the teeth that cut, it's the actual blades. These knives will stay sharp for 7 to 10 years in between sharpenings, and then we sharpen them for free as part of our forever guarantee. I grab something real quick, I forgot.
The uniform in size, it looks like, oh, maybe the teeth are. What are you talking about? Well, I'm looking at the knife
Shirley, can you
itself,
hand me
the
that,
picture of the knife.
the non-Cutco steak knife on that
It looks
cutting
like
board right
they're-
over there in the corner?
Looks like it's straight.
The one on the left.
As opposed to,
Nope, the other one.
so as they
The other
was
one.
where normally.
Thank you.
My dad would cut.
Okay, so let me show you a quick demonstration here of exactly what I'm talking about. So this is a Wüsthof, this is a Henkel's knife. Henkel's and Wüsthof are the #1 brands sold worldwide. They're made in Germany, really, really good.
That's the one.
For 200 years, they've been really good. So I sharpen this up. It's got a nice sharp edge on it, and it cuts through right with one stroke, nice and clean, no big deal. A serration is going to cut with the teeth, and you can see what happens. It rips and tears. That's what a serration does, because the teeth are pulling and ripping. Our edge, again, looks like a serration, but this one also cuts like a straight edge. Here's the difference. I'm going to use this glass to simulate a glass plate or a cutting board just to exponentially go a little bit faster. And let's say I use this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times without sharpening.
You have to work at it.
Still not through. So it took me about 15 strokes. It went from a half to 15 just like that. And if I keep using it, it gets worse and worse and worse, right? So if I sharpen this now again, I had already done this and it cuts in a stroke. You already seen that part of it, right? So what's nice about my Cutco handheld sharpener is I can run it through here a few times. And again, you can hear where it's now catching, and it's going to shave off that flat spot from the glass. So I just run it through here, and for those of you that can see, you can see the little pieces coming off of it. So now that it's smooth again, and it's sharp again, now I can go back to work, and it's going to cut again. But this knife, I have to do that with constantly. This one, because of the way that the teeth are there, and the blades are angled in between the teeth, it sounds different. You can hear the teeth hitting, as opposed to this one. So here, how many did I do with the other one? 8? Did I get to 8 yet? And then this one still cuts exactly the same. Because in our case, the blades can't hit anything. The teeth just took a beating from doing that. But the blades that actually cut can't hit anything but the food, so it just keeps cutting and cutting and cutting. So that's why these stay sharp for so long. So for those of you that have Cutco, how long have you had yours?
Oh, long time. I just recently got them sharpened, you know, and they're
Was
like
that
brand new.
Was that the first time you had them
Mhm.
sharpened? And are we talking 10 years? We talking 20? We talking
About 20 years
Okay.
or longer. Yeah.
How dull were? Did you notice they were dull, or did you not really?
I didn't notice until I came here how dull they were.
Right.
But then
that's
as
the
soon as we were here, then I went home and I said, I'm taking my knife. So
And now you notice a big difference,
so
right?
there's a big difference.
So what's cool is they dull so slowly over time, you don't even really notice it.
Yeah.
They just cut and cut and cut, and then you get them sharpened, and you're like, whoa, these are, I forgot
Yeah,
how
it's
sharp these
probably-
could be.
It's probably
So-
like closer to 30 years because Laura's gonna be 39, so yeah, so she was just young, so yeah, probably about 30 years.
Nice. We recommend that they're sharpened every 7 to 10, but many customers go 20, 30 plus years, and they just still cut and cut and cut, and that's the beauty of the Cutco edges. So your straight edges you'll still need to sharpen, because this is still hitting plates and cutting boards just like this one. But the ones with the teeth on them, you're good to go for years and years and years, which is really nice. Okay, cool. Let's get into the actual fun part of the demo here. Can you hand that back to Tanya? Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to practice a couple of basic chops. I'm going to teach you the 2 different chops, and then I'm going to have you guys practice each of them. And then once you practice, we are going to make the recipe, okay? So
You're there.
there are 2 different knives that you may have. And actually take the covers, if you guys take the covers and pass them over to me so we can keep these from getting all destroyed from the food and nastiness that's about to happen on the table here. Thank you, ladies.
You want to go here? You can go here.
Oh, that's fine.
You know what, I'll just be right here.
Again, we've got a couple of other tables, so we've got plenty of room.
I got myself my own little area.
Okay, so there are 2 different style of knives that we have here. We have the French style, and then we have the Japanese or the Santoku style. And every other
You don't
person,
have the little one
no, not we can get that out if somebody needs it, but I want you guys to practice with these.
though.
If you always use the little one, you're never going to get used to this
I
one.
know. No, it's not. That's when we had the last cutting thing. We used the little one. We decided we liked that, and that's when
Nice. So yeah, we'll pass that one around. Okay, so with these you've got the French style and you've got the Japanese, or what they call the Santoku style. The difference is really in just the shape of the blade and how they interact with the cutting board. So what they call the radius is where it rocks. So the radius of this one is early in the blade, and then it's pretty much a straight flat blade after that. Okay? So this one is designed for chopping and dicing. The knife wants to do this. Okay? It's designed to do this. You don't lift the knife up when you're chopping. That's not what we're going to focus on today. That's a very advanced way and also a very dangerous way, if you don't know what you're doing. So none of that. We're going to do this. Okay? We're going to teach you the easy, simple way and do what the knife wants to do. The Japanese, or the Santoku, is more like a teeter-totter. It rocks in the middle. Okay? But it still rocks. Again, it wants to do this. That's what it wants to do.
In the middle? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It does have one.
So only one part of the blade ever touches at any given time. Okay? So here's the difference, is really in how they interact with the cutting board. One of the big secrets that many people, again, this is one thing that people, if I just taught this, it would revolutionize a lot of people's
I hate doing
world.
celery.
So that's one of the reasons we're going to do it. So one of the one of the things that most people make the mistake of is they use the front of the blade. You're supposed to use the back of the blade. Okay? There you go. So I told you that's going to rock somebody's world, isn't it? So, but here's the thing, okay? Look how much higher I have to lift the knife up to get to it. I have so much more control. I have more pressure and strength with the back of the knife than the front of the knife. So,
learned something.
super simple. If that's all you change, your life is going to be so much easier. It's true with both knives. Yep.
Everywhere I go.
It's true with both knives. So the same thing happens with this one, and it's even more important with this one because it rocks later. But it's important with both of them. Now here's the key. So both of them, the basic way you use them is it's exactly the same.
Right.
The difference is with this one, because of, and by the way, if you're ever going to wipe a knife, always wipe it away. Don't wipe it across. So always, if you're going to wipe it, you'll see chefs constantly hitting their cutting board. That's how they knock stuff off of their knives. They're just knocking the knife all over the place. I do this. Don't do this. You guys, it makes sense, right? Okay. So here's the difference. Okay. So because this one curves and then is straight, you don't want to do a lot of this, right? So what they tell you to do with the French style knife is what they call a high cut. So if I'm chopping, I'm gonna use the back of the blade. But if I'm ever slicing, I'm not gonna slice like this, I'm gonna slice like this. So they tell you to do with a high cut. You hold the blade up so nothing but the tip is on the cutting board. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and I'm gonna drag, or if it's like a carrot, you know, I'll kind of slice and just kind of saw through it. But now I have almost two exactly equal pieces because I was able to control the cut, as opposed to pushing it down and then I end up with a weird shape on one side and a weird shape on the other side. So again, control the knife, and if it starts to go off kilter, I can just recenter it. So that's what you want to do with this one. So that's why they call the high cut. You hold the blade up. The whole reason, or the whole purpose behind the shape of this one is it kind of does that for you. So I don't have to hold the blade up like this. It naturally arcs the blade up in the air. So when I'm doing the same thing with this one, I still do the same thing. I just don't have to consciously hold it up in the air. But because it has the tip, it's actually, some people find this one a little bit easier to control, but it's wider. So there's, again, it's different. So we're going to have you use both of these so you can kind of practice, okay? So whichever knife you have, we're going to use that one first, and then we'll everybody switch. So every other person has a different knife, so we'll eventually switch, and then you get to do both with both, okay?
The same because she will.
So here's what we're going to do, okay? So what I want you to do, and then we're going to use the buckets for the trash. So everybody we're going to do the celery first, then a carrot, and then the potatoes. We're going to go from easiest to hardest, basically. So everybody wants to grab a potato, a celery, and a carrot.
Here we go, Princess.
Thank you, lovely girl. Here's yourself with a carrot.
Sandy,
Tater. A tater?
You want
No, I got a tater.
I think everybody's got.
What do you need? A carrot.
Hey, I got you.
You got
Got a
it.
carrot?
Thanks. Thank you.
Now you're
telling me.
We need a potato.
She only gave me all those rhubarb.
Okay. So
Oh, you got
and then we'll use these for both for trash. And if anybody has a rabbit or chickens to feed or anything, we'll send all this home with you.
So
Sandy
somebody's
has
got
a
chickens.
compost.
Or compost or
Somebody
whatever.
have
Yeah.
chickens?
So-
We can give it to Barb.
Okay, before you go, Marion, stop. All right. Don't get ahead of the class, okay? So here's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to do the celery first. So put the other two items on the front. Yeah, and if there's a trash can.
Sit that down, thank you very much.
Okay, so here's what I want you to do. And I'm going to do it first. Don't do it with me. I want you to watch and see what I'm doing so that we can all be on the same page, okay? I'm going to cut the crazy end off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take whichever knife I have, and I'm going to start, the skinny end is actually easier to start, and I started at the opposite end last time, but the skinny end's actually a little bit easier to start with. So if I have this knife, again, I'm going to do the high cut, and I'm going to slice it right down the middle. And then I'm going to put one of the halves away, because I'm going to save this half for the other knife when I switch with my neighbor, okay? So I'm going to take that and put it over there. Hey. Stop. I hear chopping over there. I know somebody's cheating. Okay. Eileen, don't make me come over there. All right. So now that I've got it in half, I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to cut it in half again. Okay? So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it in half like this. Again, you see how I'm just kind of slowly dragging it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice the first chop, which is just simply called the rock chop. Okay? The rock chop is just simply this, where the knife rocks up and down, and you use the back of the blade to chop. This is all about technique, it's not about speed, okay? So you see them on TV doing that kind of stuff. None of you should be doing that unless you've been doing that like that for years, okay? I don't want to see any of
Get
that.
out of the way.
So it's, again, you want to use the back couple inches of the blade, and all I'm doing is very slowly just kind of lifting the blade up. Now a couple of final things here before you guys go to town. You don't want to feed the knife. Okay, I'm not feeding the food into the knife. If I feed the knife, what accidentally might I feed the knife?
Your finger.
Fingertips, right? I don't want to do that. So you don't feed the knife. The knife is not glued to the cutting board, so I'm not just moving the back of the knife. It's just kind of the knife ends up moving a little bit as I kind of go, okay? So it just doesn't have to move up and down. I can kind of move it as I go. So that's one thing. Don't feed the knife. Let the knife kind of move. You have control over it. And then the other thing is, what do I do with my other hand? Okay? The answer to that is, don't cut it. That's the only thing I care about. Okay? So if you want to do the fancy claw thing, okay, basically all you're doing, the whole idea is your knuckle is resting on the blade instead of your fingertips being exposed to the blade. So instead of holding it like this, basically you just kind of hold it like that. And what happens is when I put the knife here now, I'm not lifting it. Again, one of the other reasons I want to use the back of the knife, because now I don't have to lift it up very high. So it never gets high enough to come close to cutting my knuckle, but I can feel where the blade is up against my knuckle. And I can do all of this and not pay attention to anything that I'm doing because I can feel what I'm doing instead of watching what I'm doing, okay? So that's the key to that. But it doesn't, again, I only have been able to do that for like 2 years. And I've been selling Cutco for 22. So I haven't learned how to do that because I'm a chef. I've learned how to do it just practicing over time. I used to do this and then take my hand away when it got close. So if that's how you want to do it, that's fine too. Just don't cut your other hand, okay? So that's the first thing. So now we've got a little pile of nice and little fine dice, right? So that's what I'm going to do first. The second thing I'm going to do is the other chop. The two chops we're going to teach you is that rock chop, and the other one is called the cross chop or the scrape chop. So in this case, I'm going to do crisscross back and forth, and we have limited space, so we're on small. Normally I would have a bigger cutting board so they're not flying all over the counter on me, but you guys can get the point here. And so this is if I'm doing onions and celery and garlic, and this is how I'm going to do the herbs later as I mince them up for the salsa. So when it comes to doing recipes like, again, if you have something like garlic or jalapenos or something that has a little bit of pop of flavor, the finer you get it, the better for the dish, because then it kind of dissipates into the dish and you get that flavor in every bite. If you leave them big and chunky, you're going to get big pops of flavor, but it's not going to have very much depth of flavor in your overall dish. Does that make sense? So that's why this chop in particular is really nice, because I can just keep going until everything is as fine as I want it to be. So again, garlic and onions and celery and anything I want for a soup or a stew, or even if I'm doing something, I don't know, like a pasta salad, sometimes I want little bites of flavor all over the place as opposed to big chunks of things like celery, okay? So I'm going to do the rock chop to break it down, and then I'm going to do the crisscross chop. And then I'm going to switch, and I'm going to take the other half of celery, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other style knife, so I can figure out which one I like best, okay? All right, any questions? And I'll help, I'll monitor. So we're going to do the celery first, and then all of your, when you get garbage, just throw it in there. Go to town, ladies.
See, I always cut this.
I prefer not to use Band-Aids, but we have them if necessary.
I was gonna,
So slice it down the middle, put half to the side. We're going to use the other half for the second knife. And then you're going to do your rock chop. Remember, don't feed the knife. You want to use the back of the blade. There you go, Carla. Good job. There you go. Again, take your time. It's not about speed. It's about technique. You didn't cut it the second time down the middle, but that's okay.
You're supposed to cut it.
is that what
We're
I
going to
do?
cut it. You're going to cut it twice, but that's okay.
I feel how a little bit.
Yeah, because I want you to practice doing the high cut, because you need a little bit of practice
You
with
want
that.
me to cut this in your hand?
Yeah, but remember, if you hold, make sure you hold the blade up a little bit. Don't just use the whole length of the blade, because then you're going to have a weird slice. Yep, so hold it and just kind of drag it back. There you go. What Shirley was talking about is we've got this little guy right here. So this one's much easier to control. So we'll pass this one around in a little bit so you guys can play with both of them and see which one you like best.
Why do I have these two again?
Just, yeah, because I wanted you to practice that high cut, that's why. Sandy, you've been to a couple of these classes, you're getting good.
I've had these knives for a long time.
She wasn't listening to directions.
So I'm not gonna take credit, for any of her skills.
But I have been to a lot of classes. Events.
There you go. Jessica knows what she's doing.
Oh, that's how we do that batch of dinner.
Yeah, nice.
One day I'll bring it.
This one's too big.
Okay. One day I'll eat it. So then when you get it diced, then go ahead and
Cross.
yeah, do the cross chop. Now, I see some of you guys scraping the cutting board with your knife, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. It's, yeah, you don't have to cringe at me. I don't care. But people ask me all the time, does that dull my knife if I do that? Maybe a little bit, but I'm going to sharpen my knife in a day or two anyways, right? We already talked about that. You have to sharpen your knife more often than you're used to. So I'm not worried about little things that might dull it a tiny bit, like scraping the cutting board, because I'm going to sharpen it.
Well, you have to put it in on high.
So now, if those of you that are complete, go ahead and switch. If you had a white knife, take a black one. If you have a black knife, you want a white one.
You switching, Drew?
If you're done, yeah. If you're not done, then hang on, because she's still. Yeah, you guys can switch here. You ladies on the end here. And then do the same thing with the other half of the celery. And then once we're done with the celery, then I'll show you what to do with the carrot. We'll do that, and then we'll do the potato. Jessica's a machine over here.
Yeah, this one's too hard to, I don't like how it rides.
Yeah, I'd like to know better.
But yeah, and I didn't think I would.
That's why we're playing with both.
It's like a,
Yeah, this one I don't like. This one's rustier. Yeah, the white one.
She needs a regular black one.
You can just set that a little in front of me.
See, I think this one would be okay with this.
so where's the,
But not
right here?
Pardon me?
Where's
This one curves right there. You can see where it's.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, but we like, I like the white.
Either way, you
one.
want the food at the back of their plate. You always want the food at more at the back of their plate.